Hello. Welcome to week 8. We are moving into the end of the semester. We're finishing up, so I wanted to go over a couple of things. So this week, you're going to post to the introduction and thesis draft, and then you're going to respond on Wednesday, and then you're going to post a full draft of your rhetorical analysis. This is your rough draft to the discussion forum. So we're going to be putting together all of the things, all of the components that we've been writing in these individual discussion forums, and we'll put them together in a full draft. I wanted to talk to you guys about this, and then that will help with both of these discussion forums for this week. So this week, you guys need to schedule a conference with me. I will be sending out information. About this. It will be a Skype conference. This needs to be done after you get me your draft of the rhetorical analysis, so we can discuss the draft. Make it better before it gets turned in. So I wanted to go ahead and go over a document. I'm going to go down to these rhetorical analysis resources, and this is just in the Unit 3 folder. Rhetorical analysis structure. This is something a group of teachers have put together just to help understand. We have the document for what is expected. So go into the prompt. It says that it's 5 to 6 pages. It needs to be MLA. It needs to have a title. It needs to have 3 terms. So that's telling you what it needs to be in it. You should have read that by now, but this is going to tell you the structure. And this will help you with the introduction that we're going to work on Monday. So the point of your rhetorical analysis is to argue whether or not the author is effective in his or her argument. So whether or not we agree is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if we agree or not. I tried to pick a topic that's not very polarizing. It's not like gun rights or abortion where somebody has a stance on it. It's not even like watch horror movies or don't watch horror movies. There's lots of nuances to the argument. Some people say don't watch horror movies. Other people say, they don't even say watch it. They just say it's a source of empowerment. So there's lots of different things people are saying about this. So we're not going to say whether or not we agree. We're never going to say people should watch horror movies or people shouldn't. That doesn't matter. We only care about how they're presenting the information and whether the argument is effective. Okay, so on Monday we're going to do the introductory paragraph. So there are certain things that you need to include in this. So the point of this is to introduce the argument, so the conversation. We did this already in the summary and synthesis. We're going to be talking about horror movies. You're going to need to introduce the article that you are analyzing. So a one-sentence summary of the essay. So when you practice your summary, you did longer summaries and you did shorter summaries. We want to do a one-sentence summary. Make sure you identify the author and article by name, full name of the author, full name of the article. After you've introduced the author the first time, you can refer to them by their last name, not their first. Discuss the author's credentials, the original context in which the essay was first published. Where was it published? That makes a big difference if something's published on CNN or something's published on the Spiritual Science Research Foundation website. These have different audiences. Who is watching TED Talks on YouTube? Who is reading The Guardian? Where were these things published? And based on these things, you are going to identify the audience and purpose of the essay. So we want to make the audience specific. So the sci-fi website, who's reading the sci-fi website? It's a TV channel website. Who's reading this? So you're probably already getting people who are watching horror movies, right? If they're reading the sci-fi website, you would think that they're interested in the programming, so they're watching the horror movies. Who's reading the spiritual science one? people who maybe are interested in spiritual science, who are maybe more open to the Thomas um, and the talk about that. Think about this. These are what you're arguing. The audience is very important. It comes back in every part of the analysis. You're going to bring back, when you talk about the rhetorical terms, you're going to bring them back to this audience. So you need to think about this a lot. This is a big part. We're going to, so we're only doing one paragraph on Monday, but it's an important paragraph. So you're going to conclude your introductory paragraph with a thesis statement. I've included this at the bottom because I think this is something you need to do after you have written your draft, because you need to have your predictors. This is going to be your rhetorical terms. So we'll start it in stages. First of all, you'll start with your author's purpose and audience. This is from a different set of articles about GMO foods. So, in why GMO labeling laws won't help U.S. consumers make better decisions, Andrew Scarpelli attempts to convince voters that GMO labeling is ineffective and harmful. So here we have the full name of the article, we've got the full name of the author. Attempts to convince voters that GMO labeling is ineffective and harmful. So we know that this is the author's purpose, his audience, voters, because he wants them to vote a certain way. Okay, you'll add your claim. So this is whether or not it's ineffective. You can do this with an adverb or a phrase. He is unsuccessful in his attempt. Or he effectively convinces voters, or he unsuccessfully convinces voters. So you can say this. You can just add that in some of these ways. Then you'll add your predictors. The point of the predictors is they will predict how your essay will be. So they must be in the same order they appear in your paper. So we're adding on by establishing ethos, utilizing pathos, and employing a close rhetorical distance. So we know that his body paragraphs, when he gets to these, it's going to be, the first one's going to be ethos, the second one's going to be pathos, and the last one's going to be a close rhetorical distance. So they have to be in this order. If your body paragraphs are out of order, one of these need to change, because the whole point is they predict your essay. This is what's going to be done on Monday. I'm going to go ahead and keep going because we will talk about the rough draft, the entire rough draft. So you've got your introduction. You've said, this is the essay I'm going to be arguing, analyzing. Here's what they're saying. Here's the audience. Here's the purpose, where it was published. You'll move into the summary. Now, the summary provides the basis for later analysis. So your audience has not read the text. You are telling them what is in the text. You're telling your audience how this author supports his or her claim. So you need to provide enough information that your reader understands what they're arguing and how they make the argument, the thought process, the supporting details, the line of reasoning. You have to recreate the argument. It should include the author's claim, the supporting details, and the author's reasoning. Make sure, again, no bias, no analysis. That comes later. This summary is to provide a blank slate. We know what the author's arguing. Later, we'll apply our analysis to it. But right now, the summary is just a summary. Nothing else is included. So when I say how they make the argument, when you say the author uses movies to support his point. Okay, so we know that they use movies, but we don't know how. So we need to recreate that part. He uses movies like Nightmare on Elm Street to show that the final girl is strong and focused on her career, something like that. You need to show how. Okay, so this is review. We've already done summaries a lot, but you're going to move into, so you start with a one paragraph introduction, 1 to 2 paragraph summary, and then you're moving into your argument body. Generally, now this is not a hard and fast rule. There's a little bit room for differences here, depending on what you want. But generally, I like one body paragraph per term. And you have 3 paragraphs, 1 per term. So remember again, argument paragraph structure. We're going to start with a topic sentence. We're going to move into a quote or piece of evidence from the text that demonstrates how the author is making the rhetorical choice. So we don't want to have too much, right? 10 to 15%, no more than that. We don't want to have the author's words drowning out our own words. Then you will paraphrase this quote. You must interpret it. We've all read the same thing. You have to show us how your interpretation is different from ours. You can't assume we will have the same interpretation. You have to explain what the quote says. You explain how this is an example of the rhetorical choice. You explain the effectiveness. How does it affect the audience? How will the audience react to this? And this, depending on what the audience's reaction will be, this is where you decide whether or not, later you will decide whether or not it's effective. If they have three, if you, at the end of your body paragraphs, you say, the audience will react this way to it, and it aligns with the author's purpose. This is, so for example, you could say, I mean, it depends, right? Because for the SSRF, the one that was talking about Thomas and impurity, you could say that that's ineffective because some people might roll their eyes at that kind of information, right? But you also have to think, who is the audience? Who is reading this website? Is it effective for that person? Because it might not be effective for you, but you might not be the audience. So you have to think about that. Is the author successful? The conclusion, you have all the components of your argument. You already said you're going to argue in individual paragraphs whether or not the author is effective in that particular thing, how the audience is going to react to his use of pathos. You're going to put it all together here. It doesn't have to be too long or too repetitive. I don't want you to repeat your introduction word for word. I want you to pull it all together of these, he was successful here, he was unsuccessful here, or he was successful around the board. But you don't want to repeat yourself too much, but you do want to underline or emphasize what your point is. So bring it back to your claim. You are arguing now. You are arguing that the author is effective or the author is ineffective. So you have to, so you just want to say, this author is effective because he used this really successfully, but it could have been more effective because he did not use this successfully. But we do want to be careful. We don't want to give suggestions. That's not our place. We're going to say this person is effective or not. We're not going to say could have been more effective if they had done this differently. That's also not something that's irrelevant. That's not what they did. So we're just going to say this is what they did, and they did a good job for their audience, or they didn't. Hopefully this cleared some things up for you guys. So this is for Monday. All of it together is for the next one. We'll respond on Monday, and then we'll do this on Friday, and we'll be working out conferences. I want everybody to give me the rough draft before conferences. So the conferences might be over the end of the week, the weekend, and moving into the beginning of the week. So I'll send out a schedule so you guys can sign up for conferences. So we can talk one-on-one, we can talk about your rough draft, we can talk about your overall grade in the class. So let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to seeing your introduction and your rough drafts this week. So let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day.